up now, but I don't want to. Because last time I think mine went up 56%, and I hazard that it will probably be an equally disturbing raise this time. But I get a lot of questions why. Why are these values going up so quickly and so much? It's very simple. Ohio law keys property values to most recent purchases and inflation of prices. And everyone sitting here understands that inflation has been through the roof. It's the highest it's been in my lifetime, and some argue that the official statistics are undercounting inflation, and it could be the highest in 2 lifetimes. Whether it's 1 or 2 lifetimes is beside the point. Inflation is at least at a 40-year high, and while the rate of inflation has gone down, people keep saying inflation's going down, they're talking about the rate of inflation. It's not going up as quickly, but the prices have not come down at all. So to say that inflation is reversing is simply not true. Prices are still going up, they're just not going up as fast as they were before. And so unfortunately, like eggs and milk and gas, our homes are being inflated too. So number one, as we're looking to the why, it's the folks in DC who didn't know that 2 + 2 = 4 and printing money causes inflation. It's simple math. Number two, if you think it's unfair that we're keying our home prices and property taxes to market value because of inflation, and I do think it's unfair, we would have to change Ohio law. The county auditor does not have the discretion to simply leave everyone's property values the same. I know that Mr. Galloway would like to be the most popular man in the history of Lake County and go rogue and say, I'm not going to raise anyone's property values ever. Vote for me. I'm sure he would love to say that. However, all these property values are ultimately subject to the approval of the Ohio Department of Taxation. So even if our blessed auditor were to go rogue on our behalf and say no taxation without representation, the Ohio Department of Taxation would just override him, apply the formula, and they'd probably be even less generous than his office because they'd be angry at Lake County for refusing to comply with the law. In other words, he does not have the discretion. It's very easy to point the finger at the man who mails out the bad news, and nobody likes the storm crow and the bearer of bad news, but truthfully, the office of the Lake County Auditor has a ministerial task. He is simply following the law as it's written. And if you think the law is unfair, we need to talk to our state reps and our state senators. On the other hand, if you are as pessimistic as I am that Columbus cares about us any more than Washington, D.C. does, and even if we may have good representatives here, they have to convince over 100 other people to agree. We have to remember that our local school board members do control, depending on where you live in Lake County, 60 to 70% of the property tax. I won't say names because I'm not here to call folks out, but I've had school board members reach out to me and say, what are you going to do to stop this outrageous property tax? I said, well, I'm going to call my school board member. Well, what are you talking about? What? It's like, you guys vote on the local tax rates. You vote on the local tax rates for the vast majority of property taxes. Now, we all bear responsibility, but we have to remember that dollars and absolute numbers matter. The county only collects less than half of what we're entitled to under state law. I don't know any other county, there may be, but I don't know of any other county, at least not in Northeast Ohio, that voluntarily collects less than half of what they're entitled to under state law. We make a huge contribution every year. But truthfully, our portion of your tax bill is less than 1.5%. If Lake County government disappeared tomorrow, you wouldn't even notice the impact. When prices are going up 56%, 60%, 80%, you're not going to notice 1.5%. That's just the reality. We don't have the power to materially impact that number. Your school board does. And this is why these local elections matter. A lot of folks say, I don't care about school board, I care about president. I'm not here to tell you the vote for president is unimportant. But the reality is, there are only 2 offices that have a material impact on your local property tax bill. And those are your state legislators who set the law for all of Ohio, including valuation rules that our county auditor is bound to follow, and your school board members who are setting the rates that collect the vast majority of the tax. So I think it's important going forward that we remember this, because there's a lot of confusion. When school board members themselves don't know they're the ones taking the tax, there's a problem. We need to make sure that we are making our views known to the people who can actually change things. And I will continue to press and push and make your concerns known to those folks, but I'm one person, and frankly, elected officials don't pay a lot of attention to other elected officials. They just assume you're running against them or you have an agenda. They do pay attention to residents, because guess what? They want your vote. So please, let your school board members know, let your state legislators know that you don't think the system is fair. And you can feel free to complain to your county auditor and commissioners as much as you want. We will listen and we will forward your concerns. But we have to humbly admit that we don't have the authority to override state law, and we don't control more than a tiny modicum of your property tax bill. The real elephant in the room are in fact the school boards and school districts and their tax collections. Any further old business?